Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Rickey Hernandez, and we are here for another episode of Behind the Bag, and I'm joined by JohnnyIce. Johnny, what's going on, my man?
Happy Friday, everybody. Short week this week. This next episode just snuck up on us, and I'm super excited. Here we are.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I mean, for those of you wondering, what are we going to be talking about? I think we're talking about. Well, first of all, we're freestyling. I mean, we're going to talk. This is a free. There is no research done for this episode. We are going to share a little story or two about how John and I met, and then every couple of minutes, we're going to randomly name a Met, and go at it.
Yeah, it's gonna be Mets potluck. We're gonna run a little generator. Take the name that comes out and see what we can do with it. I think it's a real test of our Mets knowledge and our freestyling ability over here.
Well, it's a good thing I have my Johnny Walker Black on the rocks right now. I think I'm going to need it.
Yeah, well, speaking of bars, correction from last week, proud sponsor. Just wanted to make sure I got that in there. Mickey Spillane's in Eastchester was where that fabulous burger and buffalo wings came from.
Nice.
That's
Not
431 White Plains, which is like right next door in Eastchester. So, folks, go out to both. Why not? Have a drink in one.
Support your small business, my friends.
That's
Support
right.
them. So
these guys struggled for a little while, so give them a little bit of your money.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, Friday nights, what'd you do tonight? A little Uber Eats. That's been the routine.
You know what? Last night, in the spirit of art, how I battled and went to Costco last night. So there were some leftovers. Didn't make it out. Didn't make it in. I don't know what that's called.
That's right. You battled.
Yeah,
I battled. Art How reference. It's perfect segue. Perfect segue to getting this episode started. But before we talk Mets, today, Friday, the 22nd, the 22nd, we got some, horrible news, on the passing of, Hank Aaron. Obviously a player, a legend, not a player, a legend. I would have loved to have seen him, play. But nonetheless, I think some of the memories I have, first of all, if you've never been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, highly recommend you make it out there. There's a whole display. His actual locker is there, where you could actually sit in there. That's one of the first things I thought about. But I always just remember, Hank just being a true gentleman, and just thinking about what he had to go through, as he was breaking that record, in a time of racial divide. So a big loss for the baseball world, but the world in general.
Yeah, he was always, always held himself great, and was just seemed like a classy guy, and we'll always have that memory of rounding the bases after he broke the record and the fan coming out of the audience.
Definitely.
So just it's a horrible loss for the baseball family out there for sure.
Also this week, so lots going on this week. This is what happens in between episodes, I guess. The Mets fired their general manager after 37 days on the job, for lewd and disgusting, and quite frankly, just no place in this world for it. And for me personally, I have to say, I think the Mets did the right thing. I hat tip to Steve Cohen. What they talked about changing the culture, and they made that move. 9 a.m. I think there are obviously questions that could be asked about their vetting process, but there's just no place in the world for it. It really and truly isn't.
Yeah, it was sad that Steve Cohen had to be tested on that whole culture meter at this point, and then and definitely the like the global smell test. But these are the things that you have to come down hard and strong on, because if you're going to say that this is a new beginning and this is a new start, that's what you have to do. You have to lay down the law hard. So the right move there. I'll be honest, Ray sent me the text. I only skimmed through the first half of the article and didn't get to the 60 relentless text part. So my apologies. He deserved to get fired.
Absolutely. And and I think just another, a side bar comment. I know on Twitter a lot of conversation around women in sports, and I really look forward to the day that we don't have to talk about women or men in sports, that it's just the person, it's the talent. Lots of talented female reporters out there, whether it's Jessica Camarado or who works with the Nationals now. Obviously you have Alyssa Rose, huge Met fan, both of which, by the way, are Quinnipiac alums. Just throwing that out there. The Q
shout out
representing. But yes, hopefully someday, there will be equality in the sports field, and we can just, let talent shine.
Yeah, and not in baseball, but in football, we had the Washington football team, I believe, had their first woman full-time coach. So, seeing a woman ref out there, and then we've been in the NBA, it feels like 10 plus years there's been a woman ref. I think Violet Davis was her name, who was the first one.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely looking forward to the days where you just talk about people in their positions and not their gender and everything else about them. That's, I think, one thing we can agree upon.
Absolutely. And then the third thing, on a lighter note, on today, on the 22nd, this morning, before the news of Henry Aaron's passing, Mets Twitter was ablaze with "On this day, Bernard Gilkey, acquired from the Toronto Blue Jays from the St. Louis Cardinals." Last week we talked about Bernard in depth. If you haven't heard our conversation, check it out in the archives. But it was pretty neat to see that once again, for the third week in a row, piece of content or player or thing that we have talked about has resurrected itself.
Yep. We're called behind the bag, but we are ahead of the curve, I guess is what you could say.
Absolutely.
T-shirts are going to be printed by next week.
I like it. It. Sponsored by Mickey Spillani's.
That's right.
Fantastic. So what do you say, John? What do you say we just go in and rewind a little bit into how we met? And then for those of you wondering, besides, the storytelling, with the names that are being generated, we looked at the 86 roster, the 2000 roster, and the 15 Mets. Is that correct?
Yeah. I went with all the recent memory, quote unquote, World Series teams.
Okay.
Just because I think the all-time roster was about 2,200 players, and there were some names on there that we probably could have just made up stories for, but we'll try to keep this a little above the table over here.
All right, sounds like a plan. So Johnny Ice, take us away. Where do we go from here?
Well, let's we're going back in our little time machine here. What was it? We would say the fall of 97. How does that sound? Sound like the fall of 97. 10th grade.
Yeah,
10th grade. And a real rambunctious bunch. We met in Spanish class.
Yes.
Shout out. That was Mr. Mayer's Spanish class.
And for those wondering, with the name like Rickey Hernandez, my Spanish, especially at that time, was not very good. So it was quite embarrassing, actually.
No, and I have great pretend Spanish. I have the great accent. I don't know exactly what I'm saying, but I just make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. But I happen to have a couple of random friends I already knew in that class. And I think Ray caught us talking about wrestling. I don't know. I think that's how it began. Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It was in that because shout out to our boy Ant. Ant,
4 for 4 on the mentions.
4 weeks in a row. All right, just pump the brakes now as you listen to this in the car. But he told me about this kid named Berger who does like backyard wrestling, and I would invite you, but you don't really know him. So that was the backdrop. I may have forced my way into the conversation, knowing that I just really wanted to get invited to this backyard wrestling.
Yeah, and there was obviously a significant vetting process before someone arrived in the backyard. But definitely the wrestling, of course, as we mentioned 2 episodes ago, was a big part of the relationship, and the big memory where Ray really, really made his impression on me is when he showed up for that backyard wrestling event. And Ray was going to be our MC, essentially. Was going to be
because my parents wouldn't let me wrestle. They were like, "We'll drop you off, but if you think you're going to be doing backyard wrestling with a bunch of kids throwing things like sheetrock at each other, then you could find a new house. All right. Don't come home. But
so there, yeah.
But we convinced them that if I'm the ring announcer, can I go? And they were okay with that.
So out comes Ray out of the car. May as well have been a Lincoln limo, right? And he's in his street clothes, right? Because he's a professional. And he's got the dry cleaning bag with his full ring announcer outfit. And I saw this kid and I said, here I am with my bike knee pads, my paint, my splatter paint t-shirt cut on the arms, and this kid's showing up with a full garment bag, and I said, he's a keeper.
Let that be a lesson, folks. If you're gonna play the part, you gotta play the part, man.
Yeah, and we were backyard wrestling and hanging out in the 90s. And Ray, do you ever want to relive the good time of the 90s?
I would love to.
Well, I know one of my favorite things to do, or one of my favorite things to come out of that era.
What's
boy
that?
Bands. Boy bands. And Larger Than Life, the ultimate boy band tribute, is here and redefining entertainment across the nation.
Is this our first ad? Is this our first real ad? You got us a real ad?
This is our ad.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Larger Than Life is the only 90s act of its kind, featuring singing, dancing, costumes, and that genuine pop look. That's right, all your favorite choreography and then some. Larger Than Life will take you back in time, performing over 40 boy band songs.
40?
4D. I think that was the room that Ray and I had Spanish class in. 4D. Songs by the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, New Kids on the Block, 98 Degrees, O-Town, Boyz II Men, LFO, and more. Visit wearelargerthanlife.com for all entertainment options. So before we wrap things up on the story, Ray, what did you think when you showed up to that backyard of vagabonds and guys in cut-up T-shirts and a boombox playing wrestling theme music? That's what I was.
It wasn't even a boombox. It was like there was like a full karaoke machine. I remember my
big
name echoing down the street, down the road. I was like, thank God my mom just dropped me off like in the front and didn't really, meet anyone.
That's right. And who would think fun. years later, you say not fun. Meet anyone, and now I'm sure I'm a distinguished guest in the resident over here.
All right. I think it's randomizer time.
Are we ready for the randomizer?
I'm ready.
Number 1 on the list, Michael Kadire.
Okay. All right. Michael Kadire. Wow. That's probably the only time he's ever been number 1 in a Mets jersey.
Michael Kadire, who had a David Wright connection, right? They went to they were in the same high school or something. What's the David Wright connection?
Yeah, I think they went to the same high school or grew up in the same town. And I think that was. Can you hear the dog?
Yeah. The dog's name is Michael Kadire, by the way. That's why he's so excited.
Oh man. Do you want me to, we'll cut this or?
Doesn't matter. We're rolling. It's fine.
All right.
So let me just I'll jump in. So, I feel like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the Mets always have trouble maintaining a right-handed power bat. Maybe since Piazza, and then David Wright had just injury issues over his career. But I think every year we try to land that right-handed power bat, and we were doing all right with Kadire, and then I think he got hurt, and then it was never the same after that.
Yeah, I mean, we were lucky that he retired when he did, so that saved us the big contract. Kadire, he was broken down when he came to the Mets. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But he did bring a lot of good leadership. I mean, that was part of the reason for bringing him over. So it gave us a good veteran leader. I actually. I knew Kadire. I had seen him. In Double-A.
Here we go.
With the New Britain Rockcats, and
because he was in the Minnesota.
Yeah,
Twins organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those players that I remember the name. I didn't necessarily, I couldn't even tell you about it, but seeing him with the Mets, it in a way kind of felt like it went full circle. But yeah, I mean, he was just he was serviceable. I think the expectations were probably a lot higher when we did sign him. He didn't really perform. Injuries played a key role, obviously there. But it was like having another bench coach in some ways. So there was that.
Yeah, definitely the veteran leadership. And it's just sad that was the 2015. We'll throw that out there. That was from the 2015 World Series team, Michael Kadire. So, yeah, again, a common thread in our stories. What could have been with Michael Kadire?
What could have been?
Let's give it another whirl. Rickey Henderson.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. This list is treating me well.
We could spend a lot of time on Rickey Henderson here.
The greatest player on the face of the earth.
Yes. There's a lot to talk about with Rickey, and a really interesting tenure with the Mets. I mean, he was a productive player for all his quirks.
Had a great year. Rickey Henderson deep down the left field line, into the corner, hooking. This one is off the foul pole. Home run. Rickey Henderson, first ball swinging, hits one off the foul pole. It is 4-0, New York.
But I will always remember him getting cut the next day when he, I think it was a Friday night, he hits a double. And he celebrated, like he did his Rickey dance, like as soon as the ball hit the, he used to do this little hop, and what should have been a double, maybe even a triple, was a single, and Bobby V cut him the next day. So there's that.
Again, common thread. We talked about Steve Cohen and Jared Porter.
Yeah,
Bobby V and Rickey Henderson. We don't play games around here.
Yeah, we
didn't play games in 2000 and not now.
What was disappointing though is, that at bat was kind of the, hey, we're going to cut him. He really should have been cut after the whole playing cards with Bobby Bonilla in the clubhouse as your team's in the playoff game, holding on for dear life. So probably held on to him a little too long on that one.
Yeah, and then after the Mets, he played with Seattle, San Diego, Boston, and LA, which is pretty unbelievable. He played until 2003 for a guy who started in the late 70s.
That's wild.
That's pretty incredible.
Well, and again, think about his tenure. I mean, 99, he had 37 stolen bases. At the time that he got cut, he had 5 stolen bases. But that 99 season, 37 stolen bases. He was 40 years old. I think he's the last Met that I remember, like in the 30s with stolen bases. I mean, I know that's an exaggeration with Jose Reyes and Cedeno, but not many Mets have stolen that many bases.
It's funny because then I was going to say I saw his average was 315 that year. I was like, I was the last Met who hit over 310 again. We're just kidding, guys. All right, spinning the wheel. Keith Hernandez.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
God, Dad.
Yes. The father of this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Hernandez.
I think we could actually probably have a Keith episode, and maybe we should put that on the editorial calendar because it would be fun.
Oh, our favorite player and yours.
Yes.
Keith Hernandez. And I'll be honest, in the first episode, talked about going to that Yankee game and how I was a Yankee fan at the time. My sister was a Met fan and had the Keith Hernandez, Dwight Gooden, and Darryl Strawberry little placards. And, how could you not fall in love with Keith Hernandez? It was hard being a Yankee fan in the mid to late 80s, but you had that Met team. And Keith, phenomenal. It's funny hearing about how he's always upset he played that last season to take his career batting average under 300.
That's what you get for going to Cleveland back in the late 80s. Jeez, early 90s, 1990. Keith Hernandez is a player that I would love to do a full episode, actually. Yeah. I mean, what a life he has lived.
When he joined the Mets during their 1983 season, this franchise originally and officially turned the corner. They were on their way now, because armed with an MVP trophy, a batting title, a World Series crown, and 7 gold gloves, with a whole lot more to come, he brought a winning attitude and a deadly bat to the New York lineup. A leader in the clubhouse and on the field, where he was quite simply a defensive genius. This first baseman led the club in walks, hits, doubles, runs scored, and he even dated Elaine Bennis. the incomparable first baseman, number 17, Keith Hernandez.
I mean, you think about it. I mean, I read his autobiography. I'm actually looking for it now. It's I'm Keith Hernandez. That's the book.
Ray had to go reference his Dewey Decimal System for his bookshelf.
And here's someone that just loved the game, played hard, was a top prospect, didn't quite hit it off right away in the St. Louis Cardinals farm system. Then he turned it around. A little cocaine issue. Okay, big deal. I say that with sarcasm, but yeah. I mean, the life that he has lived and then turn that around, play well on the field, be an outspoken leader. I remember, when he first started broadcasting, I think he had some beef with Mike Piazza, if I remember right.
Yeah,
because
Piazza.
He was highly critical, which again is not something that Keith just had his own style. And back then you're like, oh, you can't criticize Mike Piazza when you're paid by the team as a broadcast announcer. And, zero F's given.
Yeah, no, I love his transparency as a color guy.
Yeah.
And that's what, obviously we're partial to our Mets, our Gary, Keith, and Ron, but both Ron and Keith, they will openly call out lack of hustle or a bad play or something like that. So you don't get that full Homer treatment, and it really makes you feel like you're getting the full experience when you're watching, because these are guys that lived it, and the stories that they can tell, plus how quickly they process what's going on in the field and can tell you what should have been in what direction. It's really incredible.
Yes. So, the thing about Keith also that I'll say is growing up in Brooklyn for a couple of years growing up, PS 253, so if you're in the Brooklyn area, you could go by that school. I used to tell everyone first grade that Keith was my dad. We had the same last name. I mean, it was feasible until, I got caught in the lie because they were on the West Coast when I was like, oh yeah, dad's, out there. So
that's one of the things. I'm sorry about that. Number one. And it's one of the things I was always jealous about. A last name like Hernandez. Ray could go to any baseball team, pick up a jersey and say it was his. Not too many of my last name on there.
I'll also add, fast forward, he was doing his book promo for I'm Keith Hernandez, and I just so happened to be in the city for work, and I walked from Bryant Park to our meeting, which was somewhere, I don't know, let's call it 54th, I don't know, but bottom line is I really had to pee. I really had to go to the bathroom. And so I went to this Barnes and Noble, and Keith was doing a signing there, and these security guards, wouldn't let me go to the bathroom. And I was like, I really have to go. And then the guy is like, all right, just hurry up. So I go to the bathroom, I do my business, in the urinal, wash my hands, and the door just opens up, and it's Keith Hernandez. And I was kind of like, humming. What do I do? What do I do? And all I could say was, hey, Keith, and he just looked at me like, you jerk, you just leave me alone, and that's why he's the man, because he can do that.
And Ray's a lot better at freestyling right now than he was then. So I'm sure if you had the same experience nowadays, you'd both be masked. It would be no problem.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. So
yeah,
have you ever run into anyone in the bathroom? Any famous people?
Yeah, the Texas tornado when I was like 9 years old.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was with Ant. Shout out to Ant. Yeah, we went to a bar in Stamford for a wrestling signing, and it was me, Ant, and 2 other kids with like 5 wrestlers. And
you went to the bar as a 9-year-old. That's awesome.
Yeah. Very like
cool.
The beginning of a good joke. But just to tie the bow on Keith, I really want a drawing or a painting of that iconic shot of him in the dugout with the cigarette. Yes. I need that. That's like so iconic. All right, let's give it another spin. Mark Johnson. Yes. Go ahead,
Mark
Ray.
Johnson. We mentioned him in the first episode. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, go out of your way and listen to our pilot, because there is a Mark Johnson reference. Mark Johnson, We'll have to baseball reference him while we look at this, but or I'll let John baseball reference. I'll freestyle here.
I'm on it.
He was like 6'6", 6'7". He's left-handed. I think he played first, may have played left field. He was a bench player. But the one thing about Mark Johnson that I will always remember, and I say this with all seriousness now, is off the field. After 9/11, he was one of the first players. The whole team was, but I vividly remember Mark Johnson doing signings. I think they were like in Scarsdale or in Eastchester, to raise money for Tuesday's Children and the recovery funds. And he was very active with Bobby V. And so take the stats away, take all that, as I almost dropped my scotch here. He really made himself part of New York in that moment. And so that's what I will always remember about Mark Johnson, not so much on the field, because I don't know that there were very many highlights in a New York Met jersey.
Well, you went full-blown press guide on Mark Johnson's height. He's 6'4", 230, but he thanks you for the extra 3 inches. And his birthday is actually 2 days after mine. So
okay.
Fellow Libra, Mark Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it another spin.
Mark, if you're listening, come join our show one day.
Ray will give you some scotch. Keith Hernandez again. I got to spin again.
It's a sign that we have to do a full episode on him.
Mel Stoudemire, the coach.
Okay. All right. Where would you like to go with Mel Stoudemire?
I could talk about his son. We could talk about his Yankees connection. Is he one of those guys that you thought was always a Yankee, or was he always a Met because of his history?
He was always a Met to me. It wasn't until much later where I think it was Ron Darling that I heard talk about his accolades. Like, he was a star pitcher for the Yankees. He just unfortunately missed the window of the glory days. He was kind of in that sandwich between, the run in the 50s. And he was a dominant pitcher on a bad team. And I think he had, if I recall correctly, he had to retire because he, tore his labrum or rotator cuff. And think about it today.
This day, that's 6 weeks out.
Yeah, no worries. I'll be back. Yeah, exactly. And so that is interesting. But I will always remember Mel as a Met and being a pitching coach during those great 80s teams, because they were such a big part of my youth and yours as well.
Yeah, I remember that exact episode when Ron Darling brought that up, and I actually hadn't seen his stats until now, but his highest ERA was 3.8, and he pitched from 64 to 74 at the Yankees and had 20 wins, 21 wins, 20 wins, and again, that's those
were garbage
era.
teams. And those were garbage teams.
Yeah. So, but honestly, yeah, I remember him as the coach, and I feel like he filled in a couple of times as the head coach here and there, as the manager.
Yeah,
that's my memories.
Usually when Davey got tossed. By the way, shout out to Davey. Get well soon. We learned today that he's actually in the hospital with COVID, which is crazy. It's just crazy on so many different levels, and
yeah,
COVID knows no boundaries.
It's affecting everybody, and even those names. And it's funny how we saw it because somebody reached out for a comment on Hank Aaron, right? And realized that he was hospitalized, I think, or recovering from COVID.
And I can tell you, Davey, I read his book, his autobiography this summer. A really good read. I'm looking at actually my desk here to see if I have it. But really, The Ride of a Lifetime. It's called The Ride of a Lifetime. If you're a big fan of baseball or the Mets, or I would recommend. It's a short read. Lots of interesting stories about his upbringing as well as his career. Great, second baseman with the Orioles. Made the last out in the '69 World Series, but great. It was a fascinating read. One of my favorite, by the way, stories in that book is the conversation he has with Darryl Strawberry. And he says, Darryl, there's the things that are going on in the world. You have baseball, drugs, baseball, alcohol, and sex. You can only do 2. You can't do all 3.
I hope Darryl didn't have to choose because I'd question.
And yeah. And you know what, maybe if it was only 1, I'd have to find the passage, but it was just it was jarring that was even in the, the conversation that he had with Darryl as a young kid.
Well, let's give it another spin and see if we get Darryl next.
No, please do.
Hansel Robles.
Oh, dear God.
Oh, yet another meltdown ridden middle reliever setup guy.
A very frustrating pitcher because the stuff was always there.
I was just going to say the guy had electric stuff, but again, if we had the best team psychologist in the world, we probably would be a much better organization.
24-year-old Dominican Hansel Robles makes his major league debut. So here's Teixeira, bases loaded, nobody out. And Teixeira pops it up. Campbell should have room. And that's the first out of the inning. So Robles gets his first out in the big leagues. 9th pitch of the at-bat, and he got him with a high fastball. So he kept firing fastballs, and Robles has his first big league strikeout.
There's no denying the arm here. He can bring it. Just the four-seamer that just takes off from Robles.
Merry-go-round will be in motion. 3-2 and 2 out. And Beltran swings and misses at the slider. Robles with back-to-back strikeouts to finish off his first big league inning.
And of course, we will add him to the chapter of great careers once they leave the team. I think he was the closer of the Angels last year or 2 years ago, coming out to the Undertaker's theme song. I mean, geez.
Yeah, in 2019, he was 5-1 with a 2.48 ERA and 23 saves. In 2020, he was 0-2 with a 10.26. So
okay.
he found his Mets magic. Let's give her another spin. Bud Harrelson, coach. Tough guy. Shout out to but was that not Bud Harrelson as the coach when didn't Bud Harrelson get into a fight?
Did Bud Harrelson get into a fight?
Yes,
with the Pete Rose.
Exactly.
Kicked his ass, actually.
There you go.
Ground ball hit down to first base. Milner has it, throws to Buddy Harrelson. 1 to first. Double play! And a fight breaks out. Pete Rose and Buddy Harrelson. Both clubs spill out of the dugouts. And a wild fight is going on. Jerry Kuzman's in the middle of the fight. Everybody is out there. Buddy Harrelson and Pete Rose got into it. Rose apparently thought that Harrelson had done something in making the double play. Rose outweighs Harrelson about 35 pounds.
So, legend.
He is a legend and the only New York Met to be on the 69 and 86 World Championship teams. A couple of fun facts here with Bud Harrelson. The linkage to Bobby Valentine, because there's the image of Bud Harrelson, as Ray Knight is running to score in Game 6 of the World Series for what this podcast is named after, Behind the Bag. There's Buddy Harrelson jumping up and down. That should have been Bobby Valentine. Bobby Valentine was the third base coach right up to the 85 season. Didn't come back in 86 because he got the job with the White Sox. But I always wondered what would have happened if that should have been Bobby V. Random facts.
Yeah, just looking at his career stats, nothing stands out, but he was just one of those tough as nails kind of players that you wanted on the team. And again, like we were talking, was that last week or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about the 210 shortstop?
Yes.
It's kind of one of those things. If you got a solid player on the team, it kind of helps all the other pieces come together.
Was my dad's favorite player, and I think it's one of those players that if you're in that generation, you're always gonna, have fond memories of him. And I thought what was unfortunate was his run as manager of the Mets. again, when I read Davey Johnson's book, he was still a little bitter about how Buddy kind of took over. I think he wrote that year they went to the welcome home dinner, and Frank Cashin used to always wear a bow tie, and that was his thing. And Buddy Harrelson walks into the dinner with a bow tie, and Davey just said to himself, "That's it, I'm gone." And so really interesting there. And the Buddy Harrelson Mets, always on the brink for that first year or two, and then everything just fell off the wagon there. But that 90-91 team, they were in there, at least through the second half of the year, and then just fell apart.
Yep. Well, let's give it another whirl. Another solid one, Todd Zeile. I don't know, Ray. This is a good time, Ray. I don't know. This is. We haven't gotten any duds yet.
Yeah, a lot of good names. Do you remember where you were when they signed Todd Zeile?
I don't remember where I was when they signed Todd Zeile.
See, kids, the internet was still not really a thing. It was a thing, but it wasn't. And I was every Sunday I worked at this corner deli owned by it was called Kazzy's, but it was a Vietnamese family that owned it, and I was a cashier. And Sundays were just amazing because everyone got their bacon, egg, and cheese and the Sunday paper. And this one guy who was a huge Met fan was just like, he gave me his whole life story that Todd Zeile was signed. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That, it's not in the paper. I didn't hear anything about it. And they signed him to play first base. He's like a third baseman / catcher. Like, there's no way they signed Todd Zeile.
It's funny. I remember his like hot prospect St. Louis Cardinals day.
Yep.
And again, I think he only played third base over there, but it looks like he had his best year before he signed with the Mets, of course.
Of course.
And then, Mets, like no others, we had to bring him back again. So this was from the 2000 World Series team, of course, and brought him back again for the last year, 2004. And you know why? Because he knows you come back and you stick around and you get a broadcasting gig or whatever,
Absolutely.
So he's on SNY now.
Absolutely. So a couple more things about Todd Zeile. All right. We're gonna freestyle some rapid things. First of all, I met Todd Zeile. I was an intern. I feel like Forrest Gump sometimes when it comes to this and the Mets.
Somewhere Todd Zeile's having an episode and saying, "I met Ray Hernandez."
That would be amazing. No, Todd Zeile, I met at ESPN. I was an intern in the studio for ESPN News, and Todd Zeile was doing some work for the playoffs that year. He was the coolest guy. I mean, so down to earth, and there were some athletes that would come in through the studio and you were total jerks. Don't look at me. Todd Zeile was awesome. Nervous as could be. So this was probably 2004. It was that fall. So you could tell he was green as could be in terms of being on camera. Rolled in a suede, brown suede jacket with jeans, and it was just so cool. He's Mr. Cool. So that's one piece. The second piece, do you know his daughter is an actress?
Oh, I did not. I did not know that.
Well, I damn near beep in my pants because if you watch the show This Is Us, the teenage version of Kate is Todd Zeile's daughter. And when I read that, I was like, no way. And it is.
That
Fun
is
fact.
Your BTB fun fact of the week. I just find it interesting. He played 137 games his last year with the Mets. Only hit 233. So that probably led to his moving on from full-time activities. But always interesting to see when they play a full season.
Yeah, definitely. And his last at bat was a home run.
Here's the 3-1 pitch to Zeile and a high drive deep left field. Back goes Sledge looking up at the corner, and it's out of here! Todd Zeile in his last major league game hits a 3-run homer. And Todd pumps his fist coming around first base. The signature moment that Todd had been looking for this afternoon. He got a 3-1 fastball, and he drilled it off the Newsday sign in left field. A 3-run shot for Zeile, who gets high fives all around. Looks over to his wife, Julianne, sitting in the stands, and heads off toward the first base dugout. Zeile with a 3-run homer, and it's 7-1 New York.
And for a guy who's going into filmmaking, that's a Hollywood ending to his career.
How could you not ride off into the sunset after that?
You know, let me tell you the other thing about Todd Zeile. I mean, we can do a whole Todd Zeile episode. Is I maintain to this day, you know, Todd Zeile would have been the hero of the 2000 World Series if Timo Perez doesn't jump around like an idiot, because Todd Zeile hit that ball that, you know, Timo thought was a home run. It doesn't run, and it, you know, gets thrown out. It changed that whole complexion of that game.
All right, last one.
Wait.
Wendell. Turk Wendell.
Yes.
Yes.
And we end with a Quinnipiac alum, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow. Turk Wendell.
At an episode that we have mentioned before in a previous episode, Turk.
Oh, it's so much to say about Turk Wendell. I mean,
I would say just that once I found out Turk Wendell went to Quinnipiac, I actually, this is a non-Met story, but we, you know, in case you haven't figured it out, I went to Quinnipiac. I went with my dad to go look at the campus, and during the tour, they took us to the sporting event, which at the time was like a high school gymnasium. But Turk Wendell's picture was up there, and I was like, sold. I'm coming here.
That's all you needed. No, I mean, he had all of his quirks, which are awesome, about the nines in the contract and throwing down. I mean, could you imagine if during the social media day and age that him throwing down that rosin bag? I mean, it would be all over Instagram and everywhere.
Bernie would have no chance.
That's right. I mean, the TikTok dance would be the you know, the Turk, and you'd just be throwing things on the ground. But he was super reliable. I mean, he did what he had to do during those, some of my favorite Mets years, because it was, you know, 98 through 2000. And we just had such a squad at that point.
Yeah. Solid reliever. Loved watching him pitch. I just, you know, that probably one of the rare stories where let's call him an average pitcher, comes to the Mets and, you know, becomes such a solid piece. He was a great 7th, 8th inning guy. Loved the necklace with the different
some sort of crocodile Dundee thing going on.
The jumping over the foul lines. He was awesome.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes to current day, building the Mets roster, building the bullpen. We need to make sure we have our 7, 8, and 9 innings down. And I think over the past few years, it's definitely where things have fallen off. I mean, I was watching some sort of Jacob deGrom game from 2019 last night, and our boy Familia comes in and it's like gives up a home run. So that was the time period we need reliable hold and closers and relievers from 7, 8, and 9. That's all that matters.
Definitely. Do you have any let's call them Turk Wendell memories?
I just remember his flamboyance, and as wrestling fans, what more can you ask for than someone like this? And always when you had those like national broadcasts on Fox every
yep.
they would have to say something about him because they have this audience that's not used to Turk. So it's like you have to tell the story about the nines in the contract and how he's a little bit quirky and things like that. But I love that. I love personalities like that also can perform, as opposed to like, you know, the Limas and Alfonsecas of the world and things like that.
That's another number 17, by the way. Jose
Lima, yeah. Or, you know, our guy like Bartolome Fortunato, Mr. Snake Oil. So a superstition kind of quirky guy, but also effective, which is always pretty rare.
You could be superstitious. You just better be effective, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Do whatever you want.
You know, that was the other thing. He really was... he was our generation's Tug McGraw, if that makes sense, because Tug was a quirky guy, but effective as heck, you know, and that was Turk.
Yeah, and as Mets fans, when you see the guy coming out of the bullpen, you want reliable because there's just usually so many groans and things like that when you see somebody coming
Yeah.
out. So we miss Turk.
I think he gave us a really good gift because, he was traded to the Phillies, and I think his first game, he gave up a walk-off home run. Does that ring a bell at all?
A Met and Philly trade.
Yeah,
wow.
That could be an episode in itself, but it's gonna haunt me. I don't know who he gave up the home run to, but it was his first game in a Phillies uniform. I think in 2001. I want
2001. He only made it through 21 games in 2001.
Yeah. Let's see here. Hold on. We'll edit some of this out here to condense the time. Pitch for the Mets July 26th. Gets traded to the Phillies on July 28th. He's the losing pitcher because he did give up the walk-off home run. I want to know, who did he give up the walk-off home run to? Hold on here. This is going to bother me now.
Ray's memory strikes back.
Oh, hold on here. Robin Ventura. Look at that. Bottom of the ninth, 3-3 game. Robin Ventura, home run.
Robin Ventura
ends the game. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. One of my favorite Turk Wendell memories is when he's not in a Met jersey, but it involves the Mets.
Yeah. And that concludes our little Mets potluck, our Mets lottery,
Absolutely.
That list, for those who are wondering, had 150 names on it. So I think we got pretty lucky with some of these names.
Yes, definitely. That was a lot of fun because there was true freestyling on the spot here.
Yeah. It was great. And yeah, we're going to do it again. We'll do it with either the really bad teams maybe, and we'll throw like 3 of them together and put the names in or something like that. It'll be
okay. All right. I like it. So, stay tuned for next week's episode. We don't know what it's going to be yet, but it'll be something good. I think we're going to get to a point where we're just going to say, here are the next 3 episodes or 3 options. You guys have to vote on what it's going to be. And then we just freestyle it.
Yeah, we're gonna throw a poll up there, and then we'll look at the results of the poll that day.
All right,
see what happens.
Sounds like a plan. So be on the lookout for that poll on Twitter. I'm RH1782. He's at JohnnyIce, or on Instagram, I'm RH1782. I like consistency. He's Johnny Hielo, Hielo.
Because he's running from the authorities.
Absolutely. So there's that. All right. What do you say, John? We bring it home?
That's right.
All right.
Drive home safe, everybody.